Hello artists! Today we're going to go over how to do your color pencil value practice sheet. So this is a great way to practice using value with color, specifically with colored pencils. So for this you are going to need a pencil, preferably a wooden one, so that way we can shade. Sharpener is always a good idea. Base set of colored pencils, and erasers are always good. I have this little one if I need be, but probably won't need eraser too much. Alright. So we're going to start off with the top. Now these top two boxes we are just doing with pencil. So we want to practice our regular value first before we get into the color pencil. So these here are called value scales. The first value scale is split up into 5 different values. The second one is a smooth transition. Both of these are great things to practice that you need to get used to as an artist. So let's start with the easier one, the actual split up of the 5 different values. As you see, it goes from dark to light. We are going to try to replicate these values as close as we can with our pencil. Now, a few things. It's pretty much impossible to get a perfect black with a pencil unless you have a really good drawing pencil or a charcoal pencil, things like that. So it's okay if you don't get pure black. You're just trying to get as close as you can with whatever pencil you have. Now, when we start off, I like to do my darkest one first. So we know to make a value dark with pencil, you're going to press as hard as you can. I'm going to take a second, I'm going to fill in this one, pressing nice and hard. Here we go. So you see, my pencil actually gets pretty close to black. That's because this is a nicer drawing pencil, a 4B, which means it has a softer lead. Yours probably won't get that dark. That's okay. Now, I like to actually jump around when I'm doing a value scale. I do not go in order because I find it works better. So we're going to jump to the opposite side. So we are trying to make the lightest gray we possibly can. So here are some tricks. First and foremost, don't hold your pencil like you're writing a paper. This will give you too hard a pressure. It's going to make it too dark. Instead, what I like to do is you set your pencil down and you make a claw with your hand. And you pick it up with the claw. Then you just want to make it kind of comfortable in your hand. So this is how mine kind of ends up looking. Now, as you see, when I hold the pencil to the paper, the lead is a lot flatter. Instead of using the point, we're going to be using the side of the pencil. This will help make it so your value is lighter. Another way I like to do sometimes is I'll just grab it by the very end and I'll just lightly move it. It's hard to press hard this way. The whole point is keeping it very, very loose, very wobbly. Either way works for light values. So for this light one, I'm just going to lightly touch my pencil to the paper. Trying to just barely let it touch and just moving it back and forth. I'm not pressing on it at all. I want to get it as light as I can. Now you notice since we're using the side of the lead, it also doesn't give me any harsh lines either, which is really nice. Once I put down a layer everywhere, I'll take my finger and I'll smudge it. I think this is a great way to get rid of any lines that show up and just to make sure the value is consistent throughout. There we go. Not too bad, fairly close. All right, now you can do either the next darkest or the next lightest, either way. Let's start with this one. So I'm going to go slightly darker than the one I just did. So we're trying to replicate this value. So again, I'm going to start just by barely touching my pencil. I like to start light and make it darker. Now this time, I'm rubbing over the same area a few more times. That'll start building up that value. But I'm still holding it at the end and just lightly touching it to the paper. Once you get it all the way filled in, smudge it. See if they're different enough. Now right now, mine are fairly similar. I think I can make this one a little bit darker. So I'm going to come on it again and one more light layer just to make it a little bit darker. There we go. I like that better. Now I like to jump to the second darkest value. So we're going just a little bit lighter than the first one we did. Kind of like this one. This is our dark gray. So since we're darker, I'll flip my pencil to more like a writing style, but I still kind of push it a little bit to the end. We're pushing hard, but not as hard as that first one. Again, you notice I'm holding the pencil farther back. This lets me use the side of the lead. I think that ends up making a nice smoother area. So I start my first round. I think I can go a little darker still. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to press harder again. Building up that value a bit more. Good. Make sure these two are different. Now the last one, we need to make a value that's halfway in between these two. Now this one tends to be the hardest to do. I start light and I'll build up my layers. So again, notice I'm holding it farther away, using the side of that pencil. Okay, this first one's pretty similar to the one I did to the right, so I need to go a little bit darker. So I'll come back on it again, pushing a little bit harder. There we go. Now, this takes some practice. You're not going to be perfect at it the first time. That's why we have it on the sheet, so you can practice. The key thing is each of the 5 values need to look different. Now, let's slide over to the other value scale. This one is a smooth blend of values, going from dark to light. This is great because when we're actually coloring things, we're going to be blending our values a lot more than making boxes. So here's what I like to do. I like to turn my paper a little bit so it's comfortable, because when we're shading this one, we're going to be shading up and down. That's not exactly a comfortable movement for my hand, so I like to turn my paper so it's more comfortable for me. Diagonal tends to work better for me. You find out what angle works best for you. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start with as dark as we can, and we're going to end with as light as we can. But it's going to be one solid movement, so we're kind of zigzagging our way down. So you start pressing hard, and then you get lighter and lighter as you go. So I'm going to go at the end, pressing hard. I'm going to press hard for a little bit, and then I'll start going a little bit lighter. Oops, there's a little cut in my board. And then I'll get a bit lighter. And so just pressing it less hard to my paper. But now I'm just barely touching it, just kind of gliding it across. And I'll stop before I get to the very end. Now these little lines, that's just because of my board beneath it, so ignore those little lines there. But you see how it goes from darker to light. Take my finger, and I'm going to smudge. Again, moving that up and down motion. That'll help blend it out a little bit more. That way I can blend it all the way to my lightest. Now when I look at this, I see that I didn't get very dark for very long. I need to make my dark area a bit darker. My light's not too bad though. So I'm going to come back in and do another layer. So pressing hard. I'm going to press hard for a bit longer, and then start getting lighter. Lighter, lighter. And then I'm getting really light because I know I wanted to fade mine out before I get out here because I like this. And I'll smudge it again. Sometimes I might even do little circles with my finger to smudge. And there we go, not too bad. So the more you can practice doing these smooth transitions from dark to light, the better. This is a pretty long one, so it's hard, but you could always do shorter ones. So start hard, lighter, lighter, as light as you can. Practice doing these smooth transitions. It will help you with your drawings. Now, we're going to follow those same sort of things, but with colors. So we're using colored pencils. I just have a set of colored pencils here. As you see, for each one, we're going to do a dark value, a medium value, and a light value. So if we think of our value scale, we're doing that side, that side, that side. So as dark as we can, as light as we can, and kind of in the middle. We're going to do that for each color. Now it's the same techniques we just did, so I really don't have to go over it with you. You know, the dark one, you want to press as hard as you can. Now be careful, colored pencil leads are fairly soft. You don't want to break it. You might have to go over it a couple times. You might even switch directions. So you saw how I went one direction, now I'm going the other. Pressing as hard as you can first. Filling it in really smoothly. Then, I like to jump to the lightest. Think about how we hold the pencil. We're just barely touching it. Let it glide across. Trying not to get lines, but a smooth value. As light as you can. You can try to smudge these, but they don't smudge as good as pencils. And then that middle value. So we want to go kind of halfway in between. So find where that middle value is. I'd say red's probably about there. So it's all just about how hard you're pressing your lead. Trying to get as dark as you can, as light as you can, and somewhere in the middle. You're going to do this for each of your colors. I'm going to do that real fast and come back and show you the transitions. Alright, so as you can see, I finished up with each value scale for each color. You probably notice that some colors are easier to make 3 values with than others. Yellow tends to be kind of hard to make 3 values because it's already a fairly light color. It's harder to see the difference between the hard, the medium, and the light. Usually cool colors tend to be a bit easier to make 3 values with because they're already darker to begin with. Warm colors tend to be a little bit harder to do. You can see like this orange got a bit darker than I would have liked. It all comes with practice. All right, guys, so we did our block value scales with colors. Now we need to do our smooth transitions. So we're going to come down here to the color transitions part of your paper. Now you notice there are 6 different boxes. We're going to do a couple different types of practices. So the first one I want us to do is a transition from dark to medium to light, nice and smooth, with 2 different colors. So you're doing a single color, but transitioning from dark to medium to light. So you get to pick your 2 colors. I would recommend don't pick yellow. It's just going to be hard for you. Any other color would work great for this. So you're going to pick a color. Maybe I'm going to do this first one with a green. Maybe I'll do a bright green. Now you notice I chose a dark green and a dark blue for these. If you end up having different types of blues, greens, purples, that's fine. That's no big deal. Any type of one that you have is fine. So this one is my different green. This is my yellow green I'm going to use for this one. So we're going to do a smooth transition. So we're trying to do one of these, but with colored pencils. So it's that same sort of process. I'm going to turn it on its side a little bit for me to make it easier. I'm going to start hard, medium, light. So I like to kind of visualize, maybe even very lightly. I'll draw some lines, splitting it kind of into thirds, very, very lightly. I know that this area is going to be dark, this area medium, this area light, but I want it smooth. So start at one end, pushing hard. I want to fill a bit of space here, pushing hard, and then I'm going to start getting a little bit lighter till we get to the medium value. I might even go back over it a layer to make it a little bit darker, and then getting lighter. I'm going to come to the light values, just barely pressing until it just disappears. And again, I might need to go back over it a little bit. So right now, mine is kind of stripy. I can see dark, medium, light. I need to work on my transitions from one to the other. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm just going to put in a little bit more value so it's more of a smooth transition from that medium to the light. There we go. I might build up my medium value a little bit more. And I'll work on that transition from dark to medium. There we go, not bad. You're gonna do that same thing again with a second color, so something different. I want you to practice this skill twice. So again, you pick whatever color you want for these 2. Does not have to be the same as me. So same thing again, starting dark to medium to light. Give myself little lines just so I know where to transition at. And let's go through this fast. There we go. You can see I went back and forth over it a few times just to help smooth them out. So now that we've done a single color transition, let's do a 2 color transition. So you're going to pick 2 colors, preferably 2 that are next to each other here. So red and orange, or orange and yellow, or yellow and green. So 2 that are next to each other, but not brown. Brown's going to be kind of funky. Let's say for this one, I'm going to do, let's go blue into purple. So on one side of my first box, I'm going to have blue. I'm going to press it hard, just so I know where. On the opposite side of that same box, I'm going to get to purple. Now I chose a dark blue, so these are a fairly simple transition from one to the other. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it be a smooth change from blue into purple. So here's how you're going to do that. You're going to think about your box, your long box here, as a couple different sections. I like to start by splitting it into thirds. So I know I'm going to have a line here, and I'm going to have a line about here. So maybe I'll just use my regular pencil to label. I know this area here is going to be all blue. This area over here is going to be all purple. This area in the center is going to be a bit of a mix. So what I suggest you do, let's start with our blue, so our one side. I'm going to do my blue, and I'm going to do a little value scale like this, where it's going to be dark, 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 and then as soon as I hit that third, I'm going to transition to medium and into light, and I want it to end by this second one. So let me show you. So this whole section over here, I'm going to push hard, keeping it nice and dark. I want it to fill the majority of the box. It's okay if they don't fill all the way, but they need to fill a lot of it. So hard for the first third. Then we want to transition medium into light, ending by this point. So it's how hard we push, starting to go lighter, 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 all the way to the lightest. Now I know I need to come back and adjust a little bit, going a bit darker there. So it fades off to nothing. So we see how we have a shortened value scale. Now we're going to do the same thing, but the opposite direction on the purple. So for this purple, I'm going to go dark until I hit here. Then it's going to go medium into light and end by here. And this will start blending these colors in the center. So dark, dark, dark until I hit the end. Now I'm going to go medium into light and end by here. So medium into light and kind of end by there. I'm going to come back and put another little layer on top of it. So you see how we're starting to get that blend in the center. You shouldn't be able to tell where purple ends and blue begins. But a challenge that a lot of people face when they do this is the center area is too light. So once I go over it once with each color, I'm going to come back and I'm going to build up that value. So I'm going to do some more blue on top, going again medium into the light, building up that value so it's a bolder color in the center. We don't want the center to be light. We want to keep it bold, but we're trying to get that transition. So I'm building up some more blue on top. Now I'll take my purple opposite way, build up some more purple on top. Still working on getting lighter as I come over, so not quite pressing as hard. So you see how that makes a nice smooth transition from one color to the other, where it's nice and bold everywhere. This is what we're trying to do. So we're gonna do that same thing again with a second set of colors. Different set of colors. You pick which ones. Maybe I'm gonna show you a more challenging one. You don't have to do this one, but I'm gonna show you orange to yellow. Yellow is a hard one to blend. So if we go orange on this side, yellow is gonna be on this side. Again, remember we're gonna have solid colors on the edges, mix in the center. Now, since orange is a more powerful color than yellow, I have to be extra careful. When I get to that center mix area, I need to go lighter, faster with the orange, just because it's more powerful. So I'm going to come to about here with my bold, and then I'm going to get real light, real fast, and end by about here or so. Okay. So bold on my edge. That part doesn't change. Pushing hard, then getting lighter and lighter and lighter. You see how I'm getting really light really fast? I'll have to blend this a bit more there. But I want to get real light, real fast, and I want to just be barely touching my orange by the time I get to the end. See how it got super, super, super light? Whenever you're mixing into yellow, so whether it's with orange or with green, that area where it ends, you gotta be as light as possible. Seriously, whisper of a value, because it's gonna show up in the yellow way easier than it does with any other value. So now my yellow, hard until that third. Then medium into light and end. Now go back over it again, kind of blend it. Now I'll be honest, my medium pressure right here for the yellow is honestly pretty hard. Because since yellow's a weaker value, we need to press harder to make sure it's still seen. But we're still working on that blend. Now just like before, we might need to add a little bit more to make it a bit bolder. Just be careful, you don't want to see a harsh line where that orange ends. So make sure you don't go too dark too far with your orange, because it's more powerful than the yellow. I think mine actually worked out pretty well. There we go. So now we have single color blends to 2 color blends. Now you guessed it, in this last one, we're going to do a 3 color blend. Woohoo! So For this, you need to pick 3 colors in a row. So you could do red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Could do orange, yellow, green. You could do yellow, green, blue. You could go blue, purple, red, because where one ends, it swings back to the beginning. Again, I probably would not use brown, so it's not going to be a nice smooth mix. But we're going to do 3 colors. So I think I'm going to do a warm color one and a cool color one. So I'm going to go red to orange to yellow in this first one. So I'm going to give myself some little marks here. I know I'm going to have red here on the edge. I know I'm going to have orange in the center. And I know I'm going to have yellow on this edge. Okay. So what I like to do is I'll make myself little marks, just like we did here, splitting it into thirds, but this time it's thirds for each side. So it's almost 6. So I know between the red and orange, I'm going to have about there to there. Between the orange to yellow, we're going to go about there to there. So you see this part will be a mix, this part will be a mix. Okay, so it's the same sort of process, just shrinking it in shorter. So let's show you how this one looks.
Red, now bring in the orange. Now we'll blend. I might come back on top, a little bit more red on that. There we go. Now we do the opposite way.
So you see this one here is a bit stronger of an end of where that orange ends and the yellow begins. So I need to come back and kind of lightly put in a little bit more orange to fade it out, just lightly. There we go. So there's a 3-color blend. So you'll only do 1 set here and 1 set here. Let me do my cool color blend. So I'm going to go from green to blue to purple for this one. And then I'll be right back, show you how that ends. The green, blue, purple. You see this time I used the light green and the light blue instead of the dark blue. So you see we have the single color transitions, 2 colors, 3 colors. These skills are really important to use when you are ever coloring with colored pencil, because you want to work on blending the colors together and building up those layers. So that's the end of the front page of your colored pencil value practice.